If you're watching this, then you're probably at least a fan of Grand Admiral Thrawn and possibly a fanatic, as many of you follow this channel know that I have a slight Thrawn obsession. I'm a Thrawn fan because, although he is a villain, he requires no alien strength, brawn, or force powers to be a total badass. So far, I've been silent about the portrayal of Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels. Now consider yourself warned. Spoilers about Rebels and the Thrawn novels are ahead. Just as a recap, in the final episode of Star Wars Rebels, Ezra suddenly and unexpectedly manages to save the day by somehow arranging the attack of large purple space whales called Purrgils. And as the Bendu psychically predicted before, as Thrawn and Ezra face off on the Chimera during the battle, Thrawn is defeated while in the embrace of one of these creatures, which grabbed 3 Star Destroyers and pulled them into hyperspace. We do not see Thrawn or Ezra die. Ezra leaves a message implying that he will not be home anytime soon, and why we don't know. At this point, even David Filoni has stated that Thrawn and Ezra are still alive. I predict that we will indeed see Thrawn again. In the original Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn that is no longer canon, Thrawn returns about 5 years after the Battle of Endor with Captain Pellaeon by his side in command of the Chimera. In the final Rebels episode, we actually hear Thrawn trying to reach Captain Pellaeon when the Purrgils attack. Also in the Legends Thrawn trilogy, Thrawn very heavily uses Dreadnought-class cruisers, which are finally canon! We see in the finale several Dreadnoughts in formation with Star Destroyers. This is to the delight of many of the fans of this channel. You can find a video about these ships linked at the end of this video or in the description below. In Legends, Thrawn finds an entire lost fleet of these ships and crews them with clones. He is able to rally the Imperial remnant to his control. Although he doesn't succeed in every engagement, he's able to play the long game and outsmart the New Republic, but is ultimately defeated by Rokh, who literally stabs him in the back in the middle of a massive space battle. There is, of course, more to it than that, but that is the brief synopsis. Thrawn's ultimate motivation in Legends is never truly revealed, but it is implied that he did not think the New Republic would be strong enough to withstand the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, and that a military dictatorship of sorts like the Empire would be required to defeat the Vong. In the new canon, in the recent Thrawn novel, it is revealed that Thrawn's motivation is ultimately the protection of the Chiss Ascendancy, and that he's only using the Empire as an ally so that some unknown enemy can later be defeated. This unknown enemy is referred to by Thrawn as simply evil. So, at least from Thrawn's perspective, there is something even more evil than the Empire out there. Here is where I cannot help but point out a difference in the betrayal of Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels and Timothy Zahn's Thrawn. In the original Thrawn novels, he is indeed portrayed as a ruthless villain. He is far more brilliant than we see in Rebels, but he is never quite into wanton destruction or with any tendency to gloat about his victories. Quite the opposite, in fact. Through trickery and clever maneuvering, he's able to take entire worlds from the New Republic by barely firing a shot. And when he defeats them, he assures the conquered that there will be no conscriptions of their people into Imperial service, among other assurances. He keeps the civilian populations healthy and intact. In Rebels, he has no problems with the utter destruction of Lothal, perhaps because an example had to be made, but there is also no implication that he's motivated to protect the galaxy from some greater threat, and refers to "my Emperor" at least twice in the series, as if he's a Palpatine loyalist. So which of these portrayals of Thrawn will we see when he returns? We know that Disney is working on a new animated series, and most believe that it will take place at some point after the Battle of Endor and before The Force Awakens. We can see that 3 Star Destroyers, including the Chimera, are pulled into hyperspace and not destroyed. We can see that Ezra is with Thrawn. This may be the beginning of an interesting relationship of sorts between Thrawn and Ezra. Before the Purrgil attack, Thrawn tells Ezra that the Jedi are predictable since they're always bound by a code, but that the universe does not always abide by this code. He tells them that he should learn this, and that he will refer Ezra to someone who can teach him. Before presenting Ezra to the Emperor, Thrawn puts his hand on Ezra's shoulder and departs. I detect a bit of appreciation for Ezra on the part of Thrawn, perhaps even a bit of empathy or even pity. He also admitted to Ezra that the Force was an enigma to him, although it hardly mattered since it wasn't required for Thrawn to defeat his enemies. I predict and hope that in the time that Thrawn and Ezra spend together after disappearing into hyperspace, that they learn some things from one another. If that is the case, perhaps the Thrawn we see when he returns will be more like the Timothy Zahn version of Thrawn. Not so arrogant as the Rebels version of Thrawn, perhaps mellowed out a bit. Although still ruthless, he'd be willing to think twice before slaughtering civilians. After all, when the Empire destroys Alderaan, even if they needed to make an example of that planet, the effect was to align so many worlds firmly against the Empire. Perhaps the fear-based Tarkin doctrine was not so effective as Tarkin wanted to believe. There is a more sinister route that Thrawn could take, though. In the original Thrawn trilogy, Thrawn manages to enlist the service of an insane clone of a Jedi Master, Jerus C'baoth, who he manipulates and uses as much as possible to help him defeat the New Republic. He tells Captain Pellaeon, to Pellaeon's extreme alarm, that several clones of a Jedi like C'baoth could be very useful in the new Imperial Order to help maintain control of the galaxy. Perhaps Thrawn will hatch a plan to clone Ezra, creating an insane and confused, dark version, and use him for nefarious purposes. Or there could be an entirely light side of sorts route. In my own videos, I don't portray Thrawn as a villain at all, but mostly just brilliant and doing what he must to protect the galaxy. It could be that whatever mysterious threat Thrawn refers to will manifest itself in the next animated series, and it will prove to be too much for the New Republic. Thrawn could be the one who is instrumental in defeating such a threat. In all of the above cases, I do hope and believe that the next incarnation of Thrawn will be even more brilliant and dangerous than the Rebels version, as he certainly was in the original Thrawn trilogy. Thank you for watching, Space Friends. Be sure to subscribe, like, and especially comment. I love hearing comments. Do you think Thrawn will return, and in what form? Until next time, Space Friends.